everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I am very excited to tell you that I will be talking to Fearne Cotton, who is an incredibly talented broadcaster, author, and podcaster. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Hi, Fearne.
Hi, Evie. I'm so glad to meet you.
Oh, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolute pleasure.
So, how are you?
Do you know what? I'm good. I've just finished recording my radio show that will go out on Radio 2 soon. And just after that, I popped into the garden to feed George the tortoise some lettuce. And now I'm here with you. So I've had a good day so far.
Oh, that's really good.
How are you doing though?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I've had school all morning and then school for the rest of the afternoon, but I'm all right.
This is a good break.
It is. I really like having a little break from school. It just breaks the day up a little bit.
Too right.
So, to begin with, I know you have a podcast called Happy Place.
Yep.
So, what made you want to start your podcast, and can you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, I can, Evie. So Happy Place is, it's not dissimilar to your podcast. I basically interview lots of people from all different backgrounds with different life experience about how they deal with their mental health. It can also be their physical health. And it's really based around storytelling, I think. It's really a chance for me to listen to people's stories, hear how they've coped with certain adversity. Sometimes I interview experts, so they might have a more sort of expert-led conversation and be imparting some wisdom that we can take heed of. But it's really just as simple as having super interesting chats with people. And it's called Happy Place, and you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts.
Wow, that's amazing. Hopefully all my listeners will start listening to that.
I hope so.
So obviously I'm still at school and I'm at the stage where I've just chosen my GCSE options and I've started that curriculum. So what was your school life like?
School was interesting for me because I started work on TV when I was 15. So a bit before that, in my early teens, I was going to lots of different auditions for theatre shows and TV adverts. I'd basically audition for anything, really. And I started getting a few bits of work here and there, but I went to a totally normal high school. So I'd have to take time out and then try and catch up. And then when I got my first job in TV, I was probably missing 2, sometimes 3 days of school a week or every other week. So it was quite a big juggle. And I was also approaching my own GCSEs. So that was quite a busy time of trying to do both and trying to sort of ensure that I was up to date with my scripts and I'd learned all the lines so that when I got on set, I knew what I was doing, but then equally with my GCSEs and the subjects I was revising for. So I did okay at school. I wasn't nailing it with all the A stars. I did well in the subjects that I really, really enjoyed, like art and English and sport. And then some of the other ones I didn't study as hard for because it was just so much to juggle. So it was, looking back, it was a very, very busy time, but it was a really exciting time because I was starting out in my TV career. And it's funny because, talking to you now, and hearing that you're approaching, your GCSEs too, in some ways it feels like it was another lifetime ago, but equally it sort of feels like yesterday. And I can't believe that it was all those years ago now. It feels quite fresh in my memory. So I remember what you're going through. I remember those times and, the difficulty of picking your subjects. Which subjects have you gone for, Evie?
So I only had to pick two subjects instead of the usual four, but I picked food tech and music.
Oh, food tech's such a good one because I think some of the time, well, a lot of the time, we reach adulthood and we haven't got any skills in the kitchen whatsoever. And it's such an important part of life. So I think that's a really good one. Are you quite a keen cook?
Yeah, I started doing food tech in year 8, and I was really apprehensive about it at first because I was like, blind person cooking, how's this going to work then? But I ended up really enjoying it, and I think as well, like you said, it's such a life skill to know how to be able to cook.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you, Evie. That's exciting. I love that.
Thank you. So, one of the things I struggle with is anxiety. And I think a lot of the reason for that is due to me being blind and sort of always needing to be very alert and aware of my surroundings. Now, I know that you have struggled with anxiety as well. So, can you tell us a bit about this and how you dealt with it?
Yes, absolutely. I think, it's an important subject to talk about, Evie, because I think lots of people experience anxiety for many different reasons. And I guess my anxiety stems from my job. I think it must because it's a very strange thing to be certainly in this industry, but also sort of recognizable more so by my voice really than my face when I'm out and about these days. And at times, sort of heavily scrutinized by the press, or I think I've always struggled with people making assumptions about me without really getting to know me. And just the sort of unforgiving nature of the industry. It can be quite cutthroat at times. You can be sacked very quickly and easily, which I've definitely experienced. And, you're very replaceable on TV. And it's why I've tried to sort of forge my own career now outside of that world. But I still do have quite a lot of anxiety around it. The pressure of, I guess, lots of people either listening to my work or reading the books that I've written. I think that pressure does cause quite a lot of anxiety. And because I've done this job for a very long time, I've almost got used to that anxiety, which probably isn't a great thing. So I'm constantly looking for new tools. As to how to sort of navigate it all. I think also, you do have to look at, I guess, your own patterns in childhood that you learn from your parents. And, I've talked to my mum a fair bit about anxiety and she deals with a lot of anxiety as well. So, and as did her dad. So I think, it can be a generational pattern that's picked up as well. So I never underestimate how much that's probably informed how I deal with stress or challenging situations. So it's a big subject. It's one that I really like to talk about, one that I really like to learn more about. And I'm still looking for ways to tackle it now, I guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's a very slow process. I don't think you ever fully get over it, but I think one of the big things is just recognizing that you have it. I think that's the first step.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's really important to recognize it, give it a name, learn a bit more about it. So it's a really good first step rather than just feeling on edge the whole time, but not knowing why or feeling like you're getting it wrong. That's what I think many of us do. We think, oh my God, I'm not coping with life. Whereas actually, if you say, right, this is anxiety, let's look at how we can deal with it. It's definitely a more proactive approach.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I've often felt a sort of internal pressure to overcompensate in certain areas, as because I'm blind, my actions are often judged. I've heard you talk about imposter syndrome before and not feeling like you're worthy of praise or success. So, how have you dealt with those feelings?
Well, first of all, I think you're doing an exceptionally good job of everything that you're dealing with right now, and the fact that you're doing this podcast and getting such great guests on. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're doing brilliant things, Evie. But I would say, yeah, imposter syndrome is a big one, and I tend not to worry about it too much these days. I think when I was in my teens and 20s, I've probably felt the most imposter syndrome because I wasn't necessarily comfy in the jobs that I was doing. If I was on a TV show or part of a big show like Children in Need or something, I would tend to think, oh, I don't know if I deserve to be here, or it looks like everyone else is sort of dealing with the pressure much better than I am. Whereas today, because I tend to work on my own sort of, so I push myself to the level that I'm comfy with, I guess today. I'm not putting myself in those situations so much. So with my own Happy Place podcast, with the festival that we do, with the books that I write, I think I feel slightly more in control, and I try and focus more on the creativity rather than worrying about whether I deserve to be doing it or not. Because I think I've realized over the years that the good bit is the creative flow bit. It's the bit where I'm actually doing the job, where I'm, really getting lost in writing a story or writing a new book or working on a podcast episode, and what questions I might ask the guests. So I try and focus more on the process rather than what the outcome is and what everybody else might be thinking. But it is easier said than done sometimes, and I think it can be tricky to sort of deal with that level of pressure.
Yeah, definitely. So, in your life so far, what do you think has been your proudest moment?
I mean, they're probably all sort of real life stuff, or just sort of smaller accomplishments sort of in my own life. But I'd say definitely, becoming a mum has been, two very proud moments. I'm very proud sort of watching my kids grow up. And I think, I guess on a work note, it's just the fact that I've stuck with it, because at times I've really thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go and just live a less pressured, peaceful life. But I'm glad I've stuck at it, because it seems to be doing some good out there in the world, hopefully, and I want to continue to do that. But I think I'm sort of anticipating next year I'm releasing a novel, and I'd really like to get to a point where I feel super proud of that book, and I'm nearly there with it. I haven't quite finished editing it yet, but I can feel that I'm going to get to a place of feeling pretty proud of that down the line, I think. How about you, Evie?
Well, to be honest, I find it quite difficult to be proud of myself, and I don't really know why. I just do. And it's always been something I've struggled with, but I would probably have to say launching the podcast, because when I was first approached about the idea, I was like, is this going to work? But, now I'm, talking to amazing guests like you, and I guess I never thought I'd be doing this.
Oh, you should feel so proud, but for so many reasons. The podcast, certainly, I think it's brilliant what you're doing. And you're obviously, attracting lots of great people to have really interesting conversations with, but you should just be so proud of yourself. You really should.
Thank you. So I know that, like me, you have pets.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that animals have a healing quality to them?
Without a doubt. Oh my gosh, I'd be lost without my pets. So I've always had cats since I was born. My mum and dad have always had cats in the house. They've got a dog these days, but growing up, we probably had, I don't know, on off over the years, 6 or 7 cats. And I just find them just the most comforting creatures. So I actually had 2 cats, 2 female cats called Tallulah and Kaloi, that I got from an animal charity, a sanctuary, when I was 19, and they only passed away last year. So they were 21, which is incredibly old for cats. And they were my little angels. They're so loyal. I would, obviously turn to them in any challenging times for comfort, and they're just the best. And then it was just felt very empty without cats in the house. So last year we got another rescue cat who was very poorly when we got him. Actually, he had really bad kidney failure, but he seems to be doing pretty well, and he's called Simon, and he is so gorgeous but so naughty. I can't tell you, he's a naughty little monkey who, if he's hungry and you're ignoring him, he will like climb up the back of your trouser leg, which is incredibly painful. So yeah, he's a naughty one. And then we've got George the tortoise, who again we adopted just this summer. He used to live in the nursery school on our street, but the nursery sadly shut. So poor George was homeless. He's 55 years old, which is incredible. And he loves a bit of watermelon and lettuce. So I've just given him his sort of brunch, I guess it was, a moment ago, and he's happily sunbathing now. And then we're trying to work out what you have to do about the whole hibernation thing. So lots of Googling going on there. But both animals bring me so much joy. George, actually, I tell you what, Evie, he really makes me slow down. Like when I go out to feed him, I sort of hand feed him bits of lettuce. And, I've got to work to George's time. So I've got to slow right down, make sure I'm not rushing. So it gives me a really good breather and a sense of how much I've been rushing throughout the day before that. So both pets bring me a lot of joy. What pets have you got, Evie?
So I have a golden labradoodle and
Oh,
he's called Leo. And the original reason we got him was because I want a guide dog when I'm older, but I used to be terrified of dogs.
oh no.
Yeah. So my mum was like, let's get a puppy. But Leo, he was the last to go out of his litter and he had separation anxiety.
Oh,
He was a bit of a nightmare. He wouldn't sleep through the night. But he's 6 now and he's honestly like my best friend. We originally, I've had cats all my life as well. And we originally got 2 cats from an animal sanctuary. They were originally, I think, called Gin and Tonic.
great names.
Yeah, I know, but Mum wanted to change them, and I kind of get why. So we changed them to Chester and Elsie, and we've still got Elsie. We had to get Chester put down earlier this year, but Elsie again is my little best friend. And when we first got her, she hid in my room for 2 weeks.
Oh,
We got really, really close. And I think the cat, even though she's the smallest in the house, I think she rules the house. Everyone's a little bit
yeah, they do. Cats are the bosses. That's why I like them. Dogs are always very loyal and happy-go-lucky, but cats, they know what they want and they'll do whatever they can to get what they want. And they don't suffer fools either. They are definitely, like, Simon is the boss of the house without a doubt.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I really want a tortoise, but my mum says no because she said she doesn't want a pet that's going to outlive her.
Well, this is it. I mean, George is going to outlive us all. It's outrageous. Yeah, he's quite a creature. I mean, I didn't it wasn't on the cards to get a tortoise, but knowing he was sort of homeless, I was like, look, we'll take him in. And I am really enjoying having a tortoise. But yeah, it's I'm just a bit nervy about the hibernation bit because I've never done that and I just want to get it right. So, I've got a bit of research to be done before the winter hits.
Yeah, I'm sure if you do enough research, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I hope so. I hope so.
So my final question for you, do you have any advice for me as someone just starting out in the podcast world?
Well, first of all, I'd say you're doing a blooming good job, just as you are. You've got a really brilliant natural patter. You know how to ask questions. You've got a really interesting, diverse bunch of questions. I wouldn't really change anything that you're doing. I'd say just keep on doing it and keep reaching out to guests that you're naturally interested in and subject matters that feel close to your heart. I don't think you need to change a thing about what you're doing. I just think keep doing it. It's, it doesn't need to be overly thought about, I would say. I think podcasting just needs to feel like a really nice conversation that other people are listening in on secretly. That's what it should feel like a nice intimate chat that you're sort of allowing other people in on that moment. So I think you just got to keep doing what you're doing, Evie. It's amazing that you're juggling with your schooling and everything else that you've got going on. I just think you're doing an absolutely brilliant job and just keep on being you.
Thank you. So those are all my questions. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know that you're really busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to me.
Oh, well, likewise. I know you're incredibly busy with your studies, so good luck with all of your exams and everything you've got coming up. It's been so lovely to talk to you today.
Thank you. It's been so lovely to meet you. And thank you to my audience for listening, and I'll see you all next time.